Hey everyone, this is Shakti from Around the Wicket, where we not only speak about the game, but we try to learn more about the humans behind our sport. And our guest today joins us from Bengal, all the way from India, former wicket-keeper for the Indian national team, as well as the former captain of Bengal Tigers in the Ranji Trophy. Mr. Deep Dasgupta, thank you for joining me on Around the Wicket.
Pleasure's mine. Thank you, Shakti.
Just wanted to ask you how things are going. I know we had a little bit of chat off air, but how things are going in isolation. What's the sentiment been like for the people of India, during this tough time?
It's tough, to be very honest. It's tough for everyone. Obviously, sentiment's been very insecure because nobody has a clue what's happening. I think, and it's almost the same across the world because it's something that has hit everyone, and more often than not, the feeling that I get from speaking to people from around the world as well is don't have a clue what's happening.
Yeah.
I mean, lockdown, when it's going to get over, and even if it gets over, how are we going to behave in this new norm that we have now? So yeah, too many questions and very few answers as of now.
The IPL was about to begin at the end of March and continue till this month as well. Seems like, possibly not much of a chance, but do you feel like the BCCI is actually thinking that they may roll out this IPL towards the end of the season, or do you feel like it's a foregone conclusion that they may push it?
Right. So let me put one thing across straight away is what the mistake that a lot of us do is we look at sports from just the sporting perspective or from the lens of just sports. But we also have to understand sports is an industry, right? It's an economic thing as well. It's not just about two teams or two individual playing a sport. It is about the industry. There are a lot more people involved in sporting events, not just the players. You have too many people around the periphery as well, the hospitality industry, the airline industry, the events industry, journalism, media.
Yeah.
So there are a lot of people who are involved. So when we talk about sports as of now, at this point in time, we also have to keep that in mind. It's not just about sports, because if you're looking at it from that perspective, then talking about sports at this point in time becomes very frivolous. You know what I'm saying? When there's so many other things which are pressing concerns that we have. So when you start looking at it in a holistic way, then this is what I get is that one of the things we have to, why we need to start playing sports and all is for two reasons. One, obviously, with so much of negativity around, you need a diversion, call it positive enforcements, which sports brings, that enjoyment and everything else. So that's one reason. And the other is, and a very important reason, is the economic reason. And you mentioned about IPL. I was just reading somewhere, about 2015, a report came out, and that report, it said IPL contributed around 180 plus million to the Indian GDP.
Wow.
Right? And I'm just talking about 2 months here. So that's the effect. And this is 2015, right? 5 years ago. So, I'm not going to rule anything out as of now. And same thing, I've been reading things about how much Australian economy will lose out, and the Australian board might lose out if these series don't happen, India, Australia, or the World Cup doesn't happen. So I'm not going to rule out anything, as in I'm not going to rule out any of the tournaments or bilateral series as of now, because we still have some time, maybe another couple of weeks when we get a very fair idea of how things will be in September, October, November, once the lockdown opens up, right? When the lockdown opens up, you get back to some kind of normalcy when there is more people-to-people contact, and then we have to assess the situation. I think it's a tad bit too early to speak about that now.
Yep, I think you've covered the second part of the question as well. I was just going to ask you what the impact would be if the tournament wasn't being held, but I think you've covered that pretty well. I guess coming to the personal side of things as well, yourself, you're a broadcaster now with Star Sports as well as a columnist as well. How has the transition been going from playing cricket to now talking about cricket and analyzing cricket?
Shakti, you know what? It was, I wouldn't say an accident, but I stumbled upon this career because after I retired in 2010, I got into administration. I was looking after cricket operations for one of the IPL franchises.
Yeah.
And then during this break and during that period, 2013, there is a tournament called Champions League, which used to happen. So there'll be top two teams from Big Bash, top four teams from IPL. They would
Yeah.
all come and play from South Africa as well. So this was a 15-day tournament, and Star Sports said, want to try your hand at it. I was like, why not? September, nothing much was happening. I said, 15 days, might as well. And that's how it all started. So I started speaking to some people, and from James Rigo, who was then the head of BCCI production. He said, Deep, have you tried your hand at this? Seriously? I said, not really. I haven't really thought about it. He said, you should. I said, all right, fair enough. So that's how it slowly started, and then and that's been the story so far. So, and it's been kind of smooth because I haven't really been looking for this avenue,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
like I said, I stumbled upon it, and I've been very, very lucky, Shakti. I must say this. I've come across some amazingly good people who've accepted me. I mean, I'm talking about legends of the game who I've been very lucky to spend a lot of time with while working and off work as well. So yeah, it's been a very, very good time so far.
You got the voice for it, so congratulations,
Thank you.
anyways. Now, coming to
Thanks.
your playing days, you made your debut in South Africa in Bloemfontein in 2001. How was it? How was that experience? Representing your country for the first time.
Oh, it's huge in the sense. Listen, we all want to represent our country. No two ways about it, right? I mean, that's the dream. Growing up, and especially if you're from the subcontinent, that's uh, the number one dream. I mean, you ask any kid, they'll say, "Oh, play cricket for the country," and especially in the subcontinent, right? And I'm like from the generation '83. India had just won the World Cup. I was 6 years old then. So actually, to make it happen was huge,
Yeah.
and also the fact that back then these are pre-IPL times we are talking about. So there was a huge gap between domestic cricket and the international cricket. Now that gap has been kind of bridged dramatically because of IPL.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So you're almost playing international cricket without actually playing for your country. Guys who are playing IPL, right? So we didn't have that. So when I played, it was straight from domestic cricket to international, which was a huge jump. Uh, the major part of that jump was the fact that before I played for India, I had played with Sachin once, Sourav, because he's from Bengal. I've played with him a couple of times.
Yep.
I had played with Yuvraj once, Harbhajan once, Anil maybe a couple of times, Srinath. So I mean, VVS I met for the first time when I actually
When you
was
played for
in that
India.
dressing room. To be
Yeah.
honest, right? VVS
Yeah.
Lakshman. So that was the difference. It was huge. So when you enter that dressing room, right, and you're like, oh my God, so you're looking at all these people that you've always wanted to be with, and you've seen them. They're greats of the game. Some of them were already greats. So from that perspective, I think was a huge jump, and yeah, it was dream come true. Not just to play for the country, also to share that dressing room with those legends.
And one of the person that you didn't mention, but also made his debut in the same Test match, Virender Sehwag, and he made a century in that Test match as well, right? Can
Yeah.
you tell us a little bit about Virender Sehwag and how he is? Everyone says very
Oh God.
fearless.
Yeah, I mean, him and I, we are two extremes of the spectrum, right? I'm more orthodox and somebody who would analyze, maybe at times over analyze. And on the other side, it was Peter who was like, watch the ball, hit the ball. You know what I'm saying? It's like, if it's there to be hit, I don't care if the first ball or the last ball is the best bowler in the world or the worst bowler in the world. If I think I can hit it, I'll hit it. So yeah, and it was extremely refreshing because I learned my cricket, grew up cricket that way, and I played my cricket that way. And suddenly, to spend time with Viru and his kind of a mindset was very, very refreshing. I'll give you an example. So this is our debut test at Bloemfontein, right?
Yeah.
So we had a partnership of, I don't know, maybe 60 odd runs. And so I edged one past the slip, between the slip and the gully. And I got a boundary for it. So we met between the pitch, and I was like, I should have gone behind the ball, blah, blah, blah. I was like, nah, I should have done this, should have done that. He's like, what are you cribbing about? You got 4 test runs. That's how he looked at
Yeah, it
situations
looks a
and
bit.
how I used to look at it. So that's the kind of difference that we had. But he's, like I said, it's absolutely refreshing to talk with him because he has this amazing ability of simplifying things, you know.
Yeah,
And cricket, as you know, can be a very complicated game at
that's right.
times, whether it's the technical side or the mental side. But he has this amazing ability to keep it really, really simple.
Very positive and glass half full
Yeah,
type of guy. Yeah.
exactly.
You talked about the great people, the greats of the game that you've shared the dressing room. Any memorable moments in the dressing room that you learned from, especially as a young cricketer into early 2000s?
Yeah, I mean, listen, I only managed to spend 2 to 3 years in that dressing room, but I can tell you this: the amount of stuff that I learned about the game, about life itself, was more than I'd learned 22 years before that,
Yeah.
right? Because something like how do you prepare, how do you, because one, I mean, a lot of people have these ideas. I mean, at least I had, about talent, about about technique and everything. And slowly I realized it's, nobody's perfect technically.
Mm.
Everyone has their own flaws. It's not about being perfect in your technique. It's how about it's all about maximizing your strength and trying to cover up your weaknesses. About game plans, about preparation, things like that. How do you kind of plan an innings, every small situation. You can't think about the whole inning, so you got to pick up important crucial points. Planning an innings in terms like, okay, you know there is a left arm spinner you're good against, and he's going to bowl a couple of overs, so you take it easy now. Suddenly comes for a couple of overs, that's the time you jump from a 30 to 45. you know Things like that.
Yeah.
Before that, it was all about watch the ball and play the merit of the ball. I wouldn't plan it that way. Suddenly I realized there's so much of mind involved in this sport. It's end of
Yeah.
the day, it's not a physical sport. At that level, it's not a physical sport at all. It's more mental, much more mental than physical.
And one of the more important moments in your Test career was you made a century as well in Mohali against England in 2001 as well. How was that feeling as well, making a century for your country?
Was obviously another dream come true. I mean, your packed stadium, you're raising your bat, uh, and that was surreal, because
Mm.
growing up, when you would play in the streets or in a garage or something, you would visualize that, right? You're playing against your brother or your neighbor or something, and you do something and you raise your bat and you visualize that, so it was such a surreal moment. I mean, and yeah, and to be very honest, a lot of people have asked me that, what was going through your head, and I look back, I can't really remember much, because I was in that kind of a zone,
Moment, yeah, in the
where,
moment,
in
yeah.
that moment, in that zone where I wasn't really thinking too much. I was just batting because I just
Mm.
wanted to bat. I was enjoying myself. I just batted. So yeah, if anyone asks me details about that innings, it'll be very, very difficult for me to recollect, because to be honest, I was just batting.
Sure. And from the international level, let's go to the domestic level. You were only the second Bengal captain to take the team to two consecutive
Mm.
finals in the Ranji Trophy.
Yeah.
What was it that you brought to the team that was different, and also what was it about the team
Mm.
that made it so successful?
Uh, well, first thing is that a captain is only as good as his team. So I've got to say this, that we had a great team. We had an
Mm.
absolutely brilliant team. Good combination of senior and youngsters, seniors who were well settled, not too much of insecurity, so to say. So the whole idea, that at least my philosophy of leading a side is to make people very comfortable, make them secure.
Mm.
Because if you look at it, the first thing that any individual is looking for is personal security, right? He will not be thinking about the team if he himself is insecure about his own personal self. So one thing I made sure, that those 2 years, generally what happens is, at least in Bengal, every year 20 players play first class cricket or domestic cricket every year,
Mm.
on an average 20. But I made sure those 2 years only 16 of us played. All right, both years included. And those changes were either tactical, either somebody got injured. I remember one of the players, he lost his mom,
Mm.
So obviously he wasn't available for a couple of games. So we had to get somebody from outside uh, to nurture a couple of players. Riddhiman, we bought in Riddhiman Saha at that point in time because he was just out of under 22 and he was a very good prospect. So we said, let him be part of the domestic, the first class side, let him learn with us. So I mean, so that was one of the major things that we had in that team, and most importantly, having fun,
Yeah.
enjoying ourselves. I mean, that is such an important aspect. So I still remember there was a game against Tamil Nadu and we lost that game at home, right? At home, we lost that game within 2 days. I think it was third day lunch we lost. All right. And obviously the first reaction would be to sulk and everything. And I just made sure that we were out of that dressing room and playing football, right? Because you can't do much, right? I mean, you've
Yeah, of
already
course.
lost. There's no point cribbing about it, you know. So the whole idea was, you play tough and then have fun,
Yeah.
things like that. So I think we had these rules. We had these rules which we all got together and made. I still remember one of the first things that I did was we all sat down in a room and said, where do you think we should? I mean, as a team, how good are we? Are we good enough to play the semi-finals? And I asked that to every individual, and every individual was convinced. And I said, it's all right. It's all right if you don't think we are good enough. It's fine. But what do you think honestly? And then how do we get to that? I mean, where do you
Mm.
want to be? And everyone said, and everyone was convinced that we are good enough to play the semi-finals or reach the semi-finals. And once you reach the semi-finals, matter of 1 or 2 games, right? On your day, you beat anyone, right? So till then, it was league phase. And once everyone was convinced, half the job was done
Yeah.
because everyone else then from that day onwards took the responsibility that the team did what it was
Yeah.
supposed to. They did what they were supposed to help the team. So they kind of aligned their goals with the team goals.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's that. I guess that was, and like I said, I mean, I had a fantastic team.
Just like the basics of the game, I guess. When from grassroots level as well, enjoy the game, prepare well, and believe in yourselves, and that's probably what has worked for
Absolutely.
you
I
guys.
mean, and Shakti, it's not just about cricket or sports. It's just about everything
Everything else.
else as
Yeah.
well. Any
Yeah.
team environment, whether it's corporate or anything else. I mean, if you stick to the basic, at times I mean, this is one of the things that I learned from Viru is, it's not as complicated as at
Mm.
times we make it out to be. It's
Yeah.
rather, it's quite simple. You do the basics, and rest of the things will look after itself.
Sticking with Bengal as well, you had the opportunity as well at a certain period where you were captaining the former captain of India as well, Sourav Ganguly. How was the relationship with Dada, and how important was his presence in that dressing room?
It was very, very important because also we got to realize at that point in time he was trying to make a comeback into the Indian side.
Yeah.
Right. So obviously he needed his space as well, and which we all understood and realized that he obviously there are two things. One is the personal goal, which for him was to get back into the Indian side. The other was also making sure the team wins. So he was brilliant at that. He was absolutely brilliant. He never kind of undermined me as a captain. He never undermined the team goals because he had his goal was something else. He never did that. He aligned with the team. He aligned with everything that we did. Aligned with what he wanted to do, what the team wanted to do, and was brilliant. Every time he had anything, any inputs, he would come and tell me, let's try do this, let's try do that. And most important, very very important was it wasn't that I had to do what he told me.
Yeah.
It was all right from him, and by then he was the most successful, one of the most successful captains India has ever had,
Mhm.
or rather one of the most successful captain the world has ever seen from that perspective.
Yeah.
He never had that ego that, what, I'm telling you to do this, you better do this. So it was all right with him if I didn't do what he told me to do or his suggestions. It was all right with him, and I thought that was huge, huge.
Yeah.
I mean, somebody who's captain India so successfully, been all right with me saying, what, Daddy,
Yeah.
we'll try that, but let me try this first.
Yeah. I guess the
So I
world
think,
probably. Sorry, I was going to say. I guess the world
no, go
probably
on, go on.
forgets. I guess the
Yeah.
world probably forgets sometimes, that there's an opinion in Australia sometimes with Ganguly that he had ego, when leading India. But I don't think that is the case. And when you speak to, or when you hear interviews from younger players of that generation, they all say that he backed them to the core. So, I guess,
Yeah, and you got to understand why he behaved the way he did.
yeah,
Listen, if you're a leader and you want things to change, right, you have to start that change yourself,
mm,
right? If you want the team to fight back and give it back to the opposition, you have to start yourself, right? So yes, he got under the skin of the opposition, and I don't blame if Australians say what they say, because he did get under the skin, right?
yeah,
And that's the whole purpose. He gets under the skin, and everyone follows, right? If I'm the captain, I say, you know what? If let's say Steve Walk says something, you got to give it back, and I don't do it, nobody's going to follow me,
yeah, of
right?
course,
So he showed the way, and then everyone followed by example.
yeah,
So I can understand why oppositions thought the way they think about him, but I think it was such an integral part of the change that we saw under his captaincy.
yeah, yeah,
And I think that is important.
yeah, absolutely. And then one final, I guess, formal question was, from one wicket keeper like yourself to another wicket keeper, and let's just say, if there's no cricket that may happen this year, fingers crossed there is, but if there is no chance, the days of MS Dhoni playing or donning the Indian colours might be limited. If he does decide to step away and hang his boots, what type of legacy will MS Dhoni leave for not just Indian cricket but cricket globally?
Well, for me, irrespective of whether he turns up in a blue jersey ever again or not, I mean, his legacy will remain the same, which is of great. I mean, he's been an absolute great of the game. He's been one of the best finishers that cricket has ever seen. Yes, there'll be very few people you can put it in the same bracket as him in terms of finishing games over a period of time. I'm not just talking about 1 year or one tournament or 2 years. We're talking about good 6, 7 years. One of the first names that comes to my head is someone like Michael Bevan.
Yeah,
And that. So I mean, obviously he's one of the greats. The other very very important thing which I believe he's brought to the game is he's people like him. I mean, he's one of the very important players who did this, is making unorthodox orthodox.
mm,
You know what I'm saying? Someone like Malinga, Dhoni, very unorthodox, but it's all right to be unorthodox. I mean,
yeah,
before MS Dhoni, because if you see MS Dhoni's batting technique, keeping technique, it's not orthodox, right? But because he's made it work, coaches say it's all right to be different.
yeah,
It is all right if you don't follow the rule book, or rather the coaching book, the coaching
yeah.
manual, as long as you can get things done.
Like
So I
Steve
think
Smith as
that
well.
has,
Yeah.
yeah, Steve Smith.
Mm,
So what I'm saying here is we don't understand the effect that someone like MS Dhoni has had on modern day cricket coaching and players. A lot of coaches are now talking about natural game, right? It wasn't the case way back in early 2000 or before that.
mm,
You know, it used to be okay, elbow high, and your head
technical.
on top, and this and that, and or keeping wise footwork, and giving in and stuff like that. But he's rewritten those rule books, he's rewritten
Yeah.
those manuals, and he's forced people to look back at them, say, and look at it and say, you know what, maybe there are different ways of getting to the same
Yeah.
destination. So I think he'll always be one of the greatest. I mean, I've always said that. And what the other thing that I honestly believe, that at least I learned from him and I changed my mind is, you know, it's his mind. If you have the right temperament, the right attitude, I mean, technique and talent, uh, I mean, those are important, but there are more important things that can make you, that is more important to make you successful at the highest level.
Mm,
Technique, yes, it's important, uh, but attitude may be a little more important than technique.
yeah.
Temperament might be a little more important than technique. Talent. I mean, again, talent for me is such an overused or overrated word. Talent means nothing unless you do something with that talent.
Yeah.
Things like that. I guess there's so much to learn. I mean, he's a case study,
Yeah.
MS Dhoni.
And to finish off our session, I was going to ask you some rapid fire questions if you're okay with that.
Yeah, absolutely. Go ahead.
So, who's your favorite cricketer currently?
Currently, difficult to say because I've never had favorites. So if you,
Favorite to watch.
I don't know. It's
Let's say favorite to watch.
watch. Okay. So I'd say batting wise, I'd say Virat and Smith.
Yeah.
Virat because just I mean unbelievable stuff. Smith because again very unorthodox. Then I mean the coach in me, and I'm very passionate about coaching and everything else. I, he forces me to start thinking, what is he getting right?
Yeah.
You know, so it's very very intriguing to watch Smith bat and do so well. And also I've been lucky to have spent quite a bit of time with Smith off the field, on the field. So it's just amazing to watch Virat and Smith's bat.
And when you're growing up and in your playing days, who were the players that you really looked up to?
Uh, Again, 83 winners. So Kapil Paji, as in
Yeah.
Kapil Dev,
Mhm.
and Sunil Gavaskar, Sunny Sir. So which is I would make that skull cap kind of thing, cut newspapers and make skull caps and wear them. I still remember Kapil Paji used to do a shaving ad, and I would repeat that Palmolive da Jawabni and stuff like that.
He's,
So
he's,
yeah,
he's done some shaving
so yeah,
recently as well. He's got a new look at the moment, from what I saw.
yeah,
If there
that's
were if,
right. Yeah.
if there were three people that you'd like to invite for dinner at your household, who would those three people be?
Wow. Is it only three?
Oh, you can invite
Can I have
anyone.
everything?
Unlimited. Your
No,
wife will
because
have to
I
do all the
find it.
cooking.
Yeah, but that's all right. But you know what? What I find really, really interesting is the mental side of things and how people, for example, how did Don Bradman even think? As
Yeah,
in,
yeah.
forget his
Thought process.
batting
Yeah.
side of things, but the whole process, like Sachin. I mean, yes, I mean, we all talk about Sachin, the numbers that he's got, but how about the expectation or the pressure of expectation of 1.2
Mm.
billion people, and he knew about it, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Shane Warne, I mean, he's such a cerebral kind of a bowler. I mean, he's a great as far as skill is concerned, but his mind, he would actually read batsmen. So people like that, you want to talk. I mean, MS Dhoni again. I mean, what was he thinking when he
Yeah.
was finishing games? So I mean, because I want to get into their minds. So there's so many different kinds of people, and for
Yeah.
example, Saurav, I mean, he's a different character of the field. He's not what you see him on the field. So
Yeah.
how does he change? Anil Kumble, I mean, he's totally different from what he's on the field. Right? So maybe invite him and start talking to him about all that.
All right. The hardest bowler or the most difficult bowler you faced?
Oh, our face, Sean Pollock.
Yeah.
Because
Connect.
Sean Pollock, I mean, someone like McGrath, Sean Pollock, I mean, these guys, you had no clue which one's coming in, which
Yeah.
one's going out. And I've
Yeah.
told this to Polly. I was like, listen, I just played inside the line. I played as if everyone's coming, every delivery is coming into me. And if it goes out, I'm beaten. I'm all right with it, as long as I don't make it. So and his pace was, and I always found this. Comparatively speaking, I always found batting against quicker bowlers easier. People who are really quick because you don't
Mm.
have the time to think, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Somebody's bowling at say a 90 Hayward or Makhaya Nitini bowling at 145, 50. You don't have the time to think. You watch the ball and your instincts take over.
Mm.
But when you have those 135s, 132s, you have that split second extra when you want to leave, but at the last moment, you know what? You get your bat outside your
Yeah.
body,
Yeah.
So you have that split second extra to think, and yeah, Paulie was one of those bowlers. Apart from the skill that he had, also that 135-ish speed or whatever. Just
I was
was
gonna say
was
it's
was a
like
very
those.
very simple bowler.
It's gonna say it's like those high catches. The high catches are the most difficult. Difficult because you're
Yeah,
thinking about it too much. Okay.
right, absolutely.
In terms of favorite ground you've played or commentated on at.
My favorite. Well, obviously Eden Gardens,
Hmm.
because that's like my second home.
Yeah.
Uh, and that's a place where I've spent a lot of time. Uh, so yeah, Eden Gardens. Then yeah, there are quite a few good, I mean, venues around. I've been
Beautiful.
lucky enough to be around almost every cricket, not almost every cricket playing country. So
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, I mean, all of them for me, all the grounds look. I mean, as long as it's a cricket ground, I'm happy to be there.
This is not a cricket question. Your favorite Bengali dish?
Uh, okay. Posto bora. Okay, I'll tell you what posto bora is. It's like poppy seed, fried poppy seed, and you have
Yeah.
it with rice. Then you have chingri. Chingri is it's prawns, right? Prawns
Yeah.
cooked
Yeah. Sure.
in coconut milk, you know, and hilsa fish.
I
Hilsa,
might
I
have
don't
to.
know. I mean,
I might have to come to
yeah,
Kolkata now to have
yeah.
some.
More than happy to host you, buddy. Come over.
I will definitely come. Most underrated cricketer currently for you? Someone who doesn't get the
Oh,
recognition. Yeah.
hmm. Yeah, good one. Difficult to say actually because I think if I can think of India, I'd say someone like maybe Ishant. But you know what? In this day and age, it's very difficult not to give credit
Mm,
uh, because it's everywhere. You know,
yeah.
if somebody doesn't get the due credit on, let's say the print media would get it either through the electronic media or social media. So
Yeah.
because the avenues have become so much that it's very difficult to say that we don't. I think everyone gets what they deserve nowadays. I
Sure.
think it's pretty much.
Fair enough. And this is also another non-cricket question. What was the last book you read?
Oh, last book. I'm actually reading one right now. Couple of them. I just finished one. I was reading something on Henry Kissinger, written by Christopher Hitchens.
Mhm.
Uh, I don't know. That's not a very positive book. I think, yeah. So it's yeah. So I'm interested in history and politics. So
Okay.
yeah. So most of my
Well,
books are either history and politics.
that just about does it, actually. Thank you so much for joining me on a Sunday afternoon. I really, really appreciate you being on Around the Wicket. Thanks for sharing your stories as well. We hope you all the best for the future. Hopefully, cricket gets on the pitch very, very soon. And thanks once again.
Yeah.
I really, really enjoyed
Thank
it.
you so much.
You
Thank
take
you so
care.
much, Shakti. It was absolutely a pleasure talking to you. And yeah, we'll keep in touch and stay safe.
Of
All the
course.
way
Thank you very
best.
much.